Hello everybody and welcome to this amazing explanation of the Emblem system's calculations. I want to thank the Reddit user Jesterit who posted the information as you are a godsend. Link to their Reddit post in the description down below. This video has wrapped up their raw data pull from the game and made it a bit easier to understand with a bit of explanation. To understand what this information is, it is essentially the point calculations that determine how you earn what ranks of which emblems. Though I have no proof this information is 100% accurate, I couldn't really discredit this post and will have to take it at face value. What is important to understand is the information was just pulled directly from the game file, so we may not have everything or have been able to understand everything that was presented, but this should help us get on track with knowing how to get the results we want, so let's dive in. We'll begin with the survivor side, starting with Lightbringer, and as we all know, this is heavily based on our individual contribution to progress we've done on the objectives of the game. Each generator is worth 100 points. Essentially, 1% of the generator's progress that you repair, you get 1 point. Fixing a full generator by yourself will award you all 100 points, and working together with somebody else starting at the very beginning will net you both an equal 50 points. On top of this, each survivor gets an outright bonus of just 5 points for a generator being completed. This means technically you get 105 when you finish a generator by yourself. When you open an exit gate, it is the same method except the point value is 15, so essentially it's scaled down to 0.15 points per 1% of the gate being opened. Hex totems don't have a percentage progression as they've got to be completed all at once, so once they're done you get a massive 50 points for their cleansing of 14 seconds. Based off these numbers, it becomes difficult to get above silver if everyone is working on the objectives and generators. Essentially, if 5 generators are completed, you'll get at least 25 points. If you finished 1 generator alone, you'll be at 125 points. This means you're still not even at the silver ranking requirement of 130 points without having to open a gate, do a hex totem, or start another generator. Lightbringer really rewards those who push forward with a team who goofs off too much. Additionally, it becomes punishing if survivors don't focus the objective either, and they'll have to be wary when generators are popping quickly and they haven't even started one. Unbroken looked a bit confusing when I saw the information for it, until I realized that you do not want points in this category. Essentially, you start the game with 0 points and have an iridescent rank right off the bat. Getting knocked down once will remove iridescent and stick you with gold or less simply because you got 1 point, and that puts you out of iridescent's range and into gold. And then essentially the remaining amount is based on how long you live till you die or until you get out. If you leave and escape with your life, you are given a gold if you've gone down 1 time. You only get an iridescent if you didn't go down. But the points don't say if it requires the hook, so if you go down and don't get hooked, you still get an iridescent. If that is the case, then you can see that the down points actually means hooked, but based on the information we have, I have to assume that by going down, you gain 1 point. If you end up dying at any point, it counts how much time you've been alive, 9 minutes 1 second being the highest threshold. Essentially, if you live longer than 9 minutes 1 second, you are guaranteed a silver if you die. If you lived at least 5 minutes and 1 second, you get 2 bronze if you died. And if you've died before 5 minutes, that's when you get no emblem for this category. It's pretty simple, just attempt to stay alive for 10 minutes and you are guaranteed a silver. On to Benevolent, which is a very confusing one since it has a ton of factors that both give and take away points. There are even several multipliers based on when and where you're being altruistic, so we'll start from the top on this one, and the top is that this starts with 20 points already added. Healing another survivor gives you 10 points. This means healing yourself with self-care grants nothing. It's very important that if you want points to be distributed to you and allies, let other people heal you. The amount of healing that you do to another survivor is like a generator. It's based on how much you've done, so pretty much 0.1 points for every 1% healed. Whenever a survivor gets hooked, every survivor loses 10 points. If the survivor's status changes to dead within 10 seconds of them being hooked, then the points are just refunded. So essentially, if someone is hooked for a sacrifice and they die immediately because that was their last hook, you don't really lose points for that. However, unhooking a survivor restores the lost 10 points to everybody, and the person who made the save gets a bonus 20 points. If the survivor who was rescued gets down within 10 seconds of being rescued, the rescuer is punished a total of 30 points, so they lose 30 points from their save, meaning they essentially got nothing, but everybody still got refunded the 10 points except the person who made the poor rescue. If the survivor wiggles free or decisive strikes, you also get a boost of 30 points of escaping the killer's grasp. If you body block the killer and take a hit while he's carrying someone, you'll get 10 points for that. Also, there's a 15% multiplier to these points when you are in the basement making these altruistic actions, or if the exit gates are opened. This means they cannot just simply be powered but completely opened. I'm not sure if this also multiplies the negative effects by 15%, but I have to guess that it really isn't, as it would be a bit odd that you get taken out in the basement and are punished benevolently for it. This is a really confusing one, but essentially making proper saves and healing everyone else constantly boosts your points. Be sure not to farm your allies improperly or you'll end up in a far worse situation. For as long as altruism is performed properly, everyone won't be punished for bad plays either. For example, someone who gets hooked does not screw the team out of points as long as somebody came to rescue that person at some point. Protecting others will make Benevolent a very easy to get emblem, meaning you can get Benevolent to an easy gold or iridescent, and then combo that with an easy silver Unbroken emblem, and that'll help you safety every game. Essentially, every save that you make from a hook bumps you up an entire tier, and you start at bronze. 2 saves put you at gold. That doesn't include any of the healing that you're getting when you pull someone off a hook. So pulling someone off a hook gives you 20 points, healing them another 10 if it's by yourself, and that's an instant 30. Now slap on your will make it perks and get to healing. Just remember that botany does not stack with that perk. It is kind of by itself thing, but will make it is a damn good perk to run if you are attempting to get a good benevolent score. Last of the survivor emblems is Evader, which is interesting and possibly one of my least favorites. So this stat starts at 100 points, and it's not exactly clear how often you gain these points, but I'm willing to assume it's on a per second basis, and the per second value at base is 1. Then the modifiers increase or decrease this amount on the distance you are from the killer. For example, based on the chart displayed here, within 5 meters of the killer, while not in chase, you gain 6 times that value, meaning you're getting 6 points per second. However, being further than 64 meters will stop you from gaining these points at all, as the modifier is 0. Remember, these points only apply when chase does not activate. Chase only initiates if you sprint or make sprint actions, such as vaulting through windows quickly in front of the killer. Remaining crouched will help you build these points, especially if you follow that killer around. There is vertical scaling on the z-axis. The numbers were very vague and I'm not sure what they exactly represented, and even the original poster couldn't figure out what it meant. But I can speculate that it is simply a modifier in units that determines if the evader is to be activated. As an example, the game at Gideon Meat Plant map has 2 floors. And then the z-axis means vertical, so if the killer is close to you but above you by X amount on the z-axis, you won't get evader points without being on the same level or close to them, for example on stairs. The point values that were on the post suggested that smaller slopes like small hills or stairs were likely to not affect it, since it did have various tiers depending on how high or low on the z-axis you were, so I believe stairs would affect it, but not nearly as much as if you were on a different floor, such as the Gideon Meat Plant. Let's not forget that there are actually points for chase too. Being hit means you've lost the chase, and that means when you get hit the first time, you'll lose 10 points. Looking at how chases are rewarded will refer to the evader chase duration's point curve. Every 15 seconds banks the points minus 10 for taking the hit. Based on the chart, if you run the chase for 30 seconds, you have secured 60 points. If you get hit, you lose 10 points and gain 60, which nets you 50. If you manage to escape instead, you'll get double the value, meaning it's very worthwhile to have a long chase without getting hit. Each hit restarts a chase, and a chase ends after 5 seconds of not running in front of the killer's vision. There's one more bit that does change how you gain these points too, and it's the distance that you are from the killer during chase. The further you are, the less points you'll get, as it modifies it by a pretty harsh amount. Even though the beginning sounded simple, it also requires you to chase close to the killer, or well, evade close to the killer, in order to bank big points. If you escape at a very far distance, you'll get very minimal points, since the distance modifier will change. Now hopefully I'm calculating this right, but based on this means that looping will reward you with great points since the killer stays in a very close proximity, and will boost your points for that duration since the modifier will keep these points that you are banking to be very high. Confusing, I know, but the best way to look at this is essentially want to make sure you don't get hit within the first 15 seconds of a chase to score a good bonus of points and attempt to escape. That'll help double your points from every chase that you do get away from, but make sure you escape while close to the killer to get as many evader points as possible. So it turns out killers happen to have some pretty easy to understand values, but pretty hard to get tiers. Gatekeeper would be our first tier, and it is a bit ridiculous. Essentially, you get points every second based on how many generators are not done. This starts at 100 points for 5 generators not being completed. To achieve Iridescent, it takes 9 minutes with all 5 generators remaining incomplete. That's 9 minutes with no generators completed. The more generators that get completed, the less points you make per second, which means it takes even longer to reach higher emblems. So let's just say, as an example here, they finish 2 generators on you, and that takes 80 seconds at the start of the game. This means we will have banked 8,000 points over the 80 seconds of them completing these generators. And this leaves us with 3 generators, meaning from that point of 80 seconds, and we've already made 8,000 points, it will take 13 more minutes to make Iridescent. It becomes seemingly impossible to reach this really high requirement. If you happen to end the match before all generators are completed, you gain a bonus based on the remaining amount of generators added onto what you already gained over time. This means you're pretty much guaranteed Iridescent if they fail to get a single generator if you wipe them right at the beginning. This also seems to be the primary expectation for you to really score high on Gatekeeper at all, which means to end the game before all 5 generators are done. And that's quite the task at hand. It's very unfortunate, but this emblem heavily encourages ruin, as you need that perk for every second it can possibly wait in hopes to get you a somewhat higher than silver emblem at the end of the game. And if they're making heavy progress on generators extremely fast, this is an emblem that you're just going to want to let go and instead hopefully focus on the others. Running things that keep gates closed will not assist in this category because once all generators are completed, you no longer gain points and this emblem is solidified. Moving on to Devout, it's a pretty self-explanatory emblem. You pretty much kill people and it ranks up. Each kill, disconnect, or sacrifice gives you 2 points, which means you essentially rank up, and a 4K is equal to an Iridescent. If you let any of them bleed out, they're not worth any points at all, and it's a complete waste in this category. This makes hooks very important, but just not to this specific emblem. So pretty much they've kind of taken the process of the last pip system for killers and separated them into 2. Devout is the actual sacrifice point, and the next emblem we'll be talking about, Malicious, is pretty much all your hooks. So there's 2 separate emblems that have to do with the entire sacrifice phase, but actually killing people will increase your Devout, meaning you need 1 kill per tier. Now you can do a tombstone kill from Myers and without hooking anybody, and Devout will not suffer, but Malicious will. Therefore, if you're looking to just get quick kills, you can still get your Devout emblem up pretty high and gain a point very easily. Devout is very straightforward and one of the easiest emblems to get up as killer. Malicious seems like an emblem that combines both hooks and attacking survivors, but that really isn't the case here. You get points for striking people, meaning that your Malicious does rank up if you strike survivors as they escape out the door, but primarily these are points rewarded for hooks. This is a very difficult emblem as it requires as many hooks as possible to even make it worth your while. It does state that when you deal damage to a survivor, you gain a point, but don't forget you also lose a point when they heal up from that health state. If they drop out of your arms, that also counts as a heal as they don't go back on the ground and reduces your points by 1 since they technically healed from that dying state. I'm not sure how this works with lockers since interruption is not really mentioned in the numbers here, but in the description of the actual emblem it does say interruption counts, so that means catching people off generators does count as a hit point. Maybe 2. I believe this might not also count instant down attacks as 2 points, which could be troublesome if that's the case since they can harm your points when you down them in one hit. If that counts as 1 point and they heal up 2 states after you down them with the chainsaw, that might actually hurt your points. I'm not exactly sure. Nothing tells me this. But even ignoring that dilemma, the best way to look at this is that a survivor who gets fully sacrificed is worth 6 points. That's 2 health states and 2 hooks, which would be 2 points for the 2 times you hit them, and then 4 points for the hooks. Since they didn't get healed from the health states, they don't remove those points from you. Sacrificing only 2 survivors would then only be worth 12 points if they are not removed from the hook. Again, 2 health states, and never getting healed from that does not remove those points, and then them staying on the hook would give you a total of 4 points. Since it grants 2 points to down them in the first place with 2 separate attacks, the removal from a hook only allows them to heal for 1 health state, so this should help you secure at least 3 points for that first hook for as long as you don't keep them on the hook at all times from start to finish. So you want to let them off the hook, but ensure their quick return to keep these points rising to the top. If they're not healed after being pulled off the hook, that means you're maintaining the 4 points you had, and you can strike them for another 1 point and then hook them for 2 more. To make iridescent on this damn emblem seems a bit extreme, as you really have to milk the hooks to make this work. I'm curious to what information we may be missing out on this, but so far all I have for this section is this, and for now I'll have to remember that the primary point game is through individual hooks. I believe that it does count the points when they transition to the next phase without being hooked again, so there's no worries if they don't get off that you'll miss out on any points for not putting them on. Oh, and finally we have Chaser. This is an emblem I couldn't understand why I never got iridescent in it, even if I wiped the floor with the opposing team, but now it makes sense now that I've seen this. This is a very high demanding emblem. Essentially you get points for chasing. It's pretty simple. 5 points for finding the survivor, 55 points for hitting the survivor, and bonus points based on how long it took you to hit them. It's not possible to lose points here, but it is just possible to not get enough. The high demand is demanding of you here. In order to get an iridescent, you have to perform 22 perfect, unique chases. This means find a survivor and strike them within 15 seconds, lose them, and do it again since you only get the bonus 5 points from the initial find score. It's intense to think that you have to make 22 quick strikes to make iridescent as quick and as possible, and we all know that chases don't always end in the killer's favor in 15 seconds, especially if you're downing survivors in a single hit with a chainsaw. The choice to end them quickly with the chainsaw or go for an extended chase for that second hit seems to mean a lot. I've yet to test this myself, but it means all the difference if using a power of instant down that actually might deny you points. If you get the chance to test this yourself, please let me know in the comments, as I too will do my best to search for this answer as fast as possible. It seems to me that if you're struggling to get the hits within the first 15 seconds, that you will essentially need to give up on the Chaser emblem, as it does not seem you'll get very far. If you do end up to knock people down eventually, but the chases were very long, it just doesn't seem worthwhile to hook and sacrifice them if you're not getting enough points in the other categories as well. So either you end up killing everybody but suck at both Gatekeeper and Chaser, or you do really good at Chaser. Hopefully, you chase them all off the generators, but you didn't kill anybody, so you still safetied or something. I don't know. This is a very demanding emblem. Hopefully we don't have to worry too much, but I've noticed that even if I perform very well, I typically get a silver or a gold. I have never gotten an iridescent on this new system. That's about all I have for this video. Tell me what you guys think. Please leave the gentleman or lady a nice comment on their Reddit, as this information is lovely to have and I'm very thankful that they would post this. I contacted Not Queen in regards to getting verification of these numbers, but she said she was not sure if the devs were willing to talk those types of numbers with the community, but we'll wait and see. She still has to ask. Have you had any trouble with the emblem system? Got any great stories of what you've come across? Let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you want these videos to appear in your recommended feed. And do you like guides? Check out the shape guide I just released, link in the description, and as always, good game.